Well, good evening, all. Here we are. It's Samuel here. Sharon actually is indisposed. She can't actually be with us. She's got a lot on her plate presently, so that's okay. So I will endeavour to share what is on my heart to share, and we'll do a recap perhaps on what we did last week. To the best of our ability, we will bring you a about half an hour. We don't want it to be too long. We want it to be, and please feel free, anyone who wishes to comment, because your comments are always very much appreciated indeed. So what I would like to do is just to do a quick recap on what we covered last week, which was essentially falling in love. In other words, falling out of the head and into love, which is in the heart. And, you know, it's been on my mind a lot today, what was said about charity. Charity begins at home, and home is where the heart is. And, you know, that's the true essence of who we actually are. We are literally not here. The head is not who we actually are. The head is often said that it's like the monkey mind, and it has about 60,000 thoughts per day, which are quite frankly fluctuating between the past and the future. And if they're in the past or the future, they're not present, whereas the heart and the soul is very present. So what I would like to do just in a couple of minutes, you may recall we actually did the Relax I Am Within exercise at the end of our recording last week. Well, I'm going to do it at the beginning this time, in a few minutes when others have joined, if they're finished their tea. And in fact, on that point, perhaps is 7 o'clock too early? Should it be 7:30 or maybe perhaps 8 o'clock? If you want to give me some feedback on that, I would appreciate that, because we would like to ensure that when we do these recordings that they're not too early and we don't want to be disturbing people's tea. Okay, so yeah. So what I touched on last week was the greatest love of all, and you may have actually noticed this morning I posted that beautiful rendition of the song, also recorded by George Benson. The greatest love of all is learning to love ourselves, learning to love ourselves. And indeed, it's remembering to love ourselves, because at one stage, whilst when we were children, we actually knew who we were, and we did actually love ourselves. But we were educated out of it. And I'm not going to get into that tonight, but because that's a seminar in itself, for goodness sake. So we're not going to get into that. But what we are going to get into is how to actually get back in love with ourselves. And, you know, this is the first relationship. This is about relationships. These recordings are about relationships. And I'm going to share a few things here this evening, that the first person we literally need to fall in love with is ourselves, and how to ensure that we actually do that and stay there. You know, I remember, yeah, just before we go into any further information, we want to do the Relax I Am Within so that we're actually all present, being present, not here, past or future, mind set, but being present. So let's do this together at the start. And it is just a recap for those who maybe weren't on last week, or indeed haven't been aware or listened to any of my videos before. But this is a mantra, or a breathing exercise with a mantra, that was shared with me 21 years ago by my mentors, Wally Minto and Leslie Fieger, and eternal gratitude to both those gentlemen and Leslie's partner at the time, Sandra Hartley. But Wally Minto, actually, it may have been his creation. But nonetheless, this is an absolutely so simple, but an incredibly powerful little exercise. And what it does is it takes us out of here and brings us into the truth of who we actually are, which is the I am within. So the first thing we need to relax and still is the mind. And we all were able to do this as kids, but we were programmed out of it by fear and control, institutionalized stuff. I'm not getting into it, but anyway, we can get back to it. It's still there. We still have this capacity to be in love. We still have this capacity to have the charity, which is love, within. Charity begins at home, and home is where the heart is, i.e. here. It is not here. Okay, so the mantra is relax, I am within, and it incorporates 3 deep breaths. So with first breath, we repeat the word relax, and the next breath, the words I am, and the next breath within. So let's do this together because it'll help settle us, calm us, and bring us into the center, bring us into our present moment. Because we've all probably maybe had a busy day and the stuff that went on, and maybe thinking about the stuff tomorrow. So let's be present, be present. So let's do this together. Relax, relax, relax. I am, I am, I am, I am. Within, 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 within. Very simple exercise, but incredibly powerful. We don't even need to close our eyes. And that has essentially balanced the left and the right brain, which is the male and female. And I want to talk a little bit about this tonight because, the greatest love of all is learning to love ourselves. In other words, have a relationship with ourselves. Now you can say, what? Yeah, a relationship with ourselves. In other words, we have a male and female side. It's the creative side is the female side, and the logical side is the male side. Ask any woman and she'll tell you that. Maybe that's where this book, the book that says, isn't it, men and women are from 2 different places, Venus and Mars. I'm sure you've heard of that book. Well, the truth of the matter actually is, as little children, we're all from Venus and Mars. We all have the balance of the left and the right brain. It's just that men got educated out of it principally. Women know that if you trust the gut feeling and the heart, you're always right. Well, men know that too, but it's been just covered up by conditioning. Don't believe anything unless you pour acid on it. In other words, it's got to be validated by the head. Well, guess what? The truth is within us. And I maybe I don't know if it was myself coined the phrase or not, but follow the heart and listen to the gut feelings. And that's the truth of who we actually are. So that little exercise that we just did does that, balances the left and the right brain, the male and the female within ourselves. And I think I said last week that, little boys and little girls are essentially very much the same, apart from their obvious genitalia differences and the clothes that they may be told to wear by the system. But literally, they're very open-hearted, free, spirited beings. We were just educated out of it. And we became adults who thought we knew better. Unconditional love is of the children and indeed of the animal kingdom. So we can get back to that by retraining this, especially the left brain, to be here, present. So retraining ourselves again to live from here, not from here. All right. Okay. The other thing I touched on last week was this. Now, some of you may have seen this before, some of you may not. Well, I'm going to share a little of the history of this. Most of my sharings and teachings all relate around this diagram. And I was very, very privileged indeed to see this for the first time way back in 1993. Goodness gracious, how long ago was that? 25, 26 years ago. Whilst I was searching, and I had my, I'll just pop it down for a second. I was in the middle of chronic fatigue. It was actually known as yuppie flu back then. and now known as ME, or chronic fatigue. And I was searching from 1990. I had a relationship breakup. Best thing ever happened, because what it actually did was it brought me to the end of my chase, if you like, for looking for love outside myself. I realized, hang on a minute, how can I share something that I don't have? And what is the point in trying to look for it outside? Because it's futile. If I continue to look for something outside, I'll continue to look for it. In other words, it's a bottomless pit. And then the other actual thing that very much occurred to me, how can I share something that which I don't already have myself? Yeah, how can we? We can't. So this diagram was very, very poignant to me. And I was able to understand that the truth of who I actually am is not my body, is not my mind, but it's the core, the I am that is within the soul and the heart. Now this diagram, we can wrap a whole seminar, a whole day seminar around this. And we're going to be doing one, as you know, this Sunday in Corrick House, Clogher, County Tyrone, Northern Ireland, from 9 o'clock to 5:30. And this will be pretty much a centerpiece of that day. That day, incidentally, is going to be the first of a series of ongoing support group workshops to help people, support them in their journey from here to here, and providing them the tools to stay there. And that's not a plug necessarily, or maybe it is, but this is our intention. We're going to be running one of these nearly every couple of weeks, because the time is, there's never been a time where the search for meaning and the search for love and the search for fulfillment has been greater. That it's absolutely incessant. Relationships under extreme pressure. So relationships. The first relationship is the relationship between our male and female selves. The relationship between the head and the heart. The relationship between the ego and the soul. And whenever the soul and the heart and the body integrate with the mind, and the mind integrate with the soul, heart, and body, then everything is in harmony. In other words, we have a thing called oneness, where we are one within ourselves and we are in love within ourselves. And when we stay there, we're in a position to actually be overflowing with this love. As I just to recap on last week, and as the overflow goes to other people. If I am in a depleted state or a drained state, where am I going to get my energy from? I'm going to actually beg it, borrow it, steal it from somebody else. That is called dysfunctional relationships. I had them in my life, thankfully no longer. The bottom line is, we are meant to be overflowing ourselves, and as the overflow goes out to others, and how can we be overflowing unless we are completely and utterly, continuously connected to the source that allows the overflow to take place? And that's it. That's it. You know, dysfunctional relationships are quite simply trying to find something from somebody else that we're not actually having ourselves. So if they don't have it, then what have we got? We've got drama and indeed trauma. You know, it's give and take and give and take, and the other half mentality. You know, the other half, for goodness sake, who wants to be another half? Why can't we be whole? W-H-O-L-E. Whole is where it's at. You know, the greatest love of all is learning to love ourselves. That's wholesome. That is functional. That is fulfilling. Filled full. That's what it is. And overflow. And as the overflow goes out to other people then. All right. Now I'm going to fire out some questions here. But before I do so, I remember back in 1993, I think it was September 93, I had the privilege and pleasure of actually going to UPW, which was Unleash the Power Within. Anthony Robbins, I'm sure some of you are actually aware of that. It was way back in 93, 20, I don't know, whatever number of years, it's 26 years ago. And there were some wonderful things that Tony actually shared with us there. But one of the most poignant things that I will always remember, ever, never, ever forget, that the quality of my life is the quality of my communication, first of all, to myself. I'll say that again. The quality of my life, or the quality of our lives, is the quality of our communication, firstly, to ourselves. Now, we're going to dissect that a little bit. The quality of my life, okay, fair enough. That's mega important. The quality of my life, the quality of our lives is mega, mega important. If we don't have quality, we keep looking for it. But it all hinges on the rest of that statement. The quality of my life is the quality of my communication, firstly to myself. So here's the question. How are we communicating with ourselves? And here's the second question. How can we communicate with someone we don't actually know? And that's the major issue. How can we communicate with someone we don't know? We do have the awareness deep within ourselves, but it's covered up with beliefs and lack of self-worth and lack of self-esteem and self-respect and all of that stuff. So it has actually suppressed this self-love, this self-esteem, self-respect, self-worth within us here. So it's still there, but it's been covered up. So we need to remember that. Just as Whitney Houston said, the greatest love of all is learning to love ourselves. But how can we love ourselves until we remember who the self actually is? And that's what meditation does. And the help and assistance of a mentor who has actually found the keys to how to do that, which I am eternally grateful to the people who shared the keys with me 21 years ago. Okay. So as I say, back in 1993, it was 26 years ago, Tony Robbins made that real clear. The quality of my life is the quality of my communication, firstly to myself. Firstly to myself. But we need to remember who we actually are before we can communicate with someone. That's the bottom line. How can I or anybody else communicate effectively with another until we know who that person is? Period. Okay. And that's what I mean by charity begins at home. And home is where the heart is. So I must return home. We must return home to the heart, to the inner self, to the I am within. And that's why we start, that's why this mantra, relax, I am within, is so powerful. It's actually an open-eyed 30-second meditation. And it's so powerful that when we use that on a daily basis throughout the day, like an affirmation, it reminds us to stay here with the breathing, coupled with the deep breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth, reminds us to get back in here and out of here. Here is not the truth of who I actually am. This is the lie, the monkey. All right. Okay. Next question. How can I love someone that I don't yet know who that person or someone is? I'm going to ask that again. How can I or anyone love someone that they don't yet know? Greatest love of all is learning to love ourselves. But we need to know who that self is. Not only know who that self is, but know what that self is. So my experience of relationships was, there always had to be beautiful women, by the way. And I needed somebody else to massage my ego. In other words, the more beautiful the girl actually was, I felt great because this lady was on my arm. You know, love going out with a beautiful woman. Massaging my ego. Well, if my ego was whole and complete, in harmony with my soul, and I am in love, we are in love with ourselves. Quite frankly, we don't need anyone on our arm to make us feel better about who and what we actually are. Nor do, trains, planes, and automobiles and fast cars and materialism. All of that stuff is all very good in its place. But if it is to boost or try to boost our self-worth, it's only boosting the ego. You know, it's all good in its place. It's all okay in its place, provided it's an expression of the truth of who we actually are. Okay. So, how can I love someone that I have not yet met or I have not yet known? So how can I fall in love with someone that I do not yet know? That's it. We have got to remember who we are and what we are and fall in love. Out of here, into here. Now we are in love with ourselves, our true selves. And by the way, the true self is the same as the true self in all of 7 billion souls on this planet. It's the creator self. The I am that is within is the same I am that is within 7 billion souls. We just need to remember who that is. And then we're at one with the rest of creation. And that's where namaste comes from. So, you know, the source or divine individual or the divine God or the divine whatever you want to call it within me greets the divine that is in you. We are one. Okay, so now we're all. Can you just imagine that? Can we just imagine that? That's an interesting song, by the way. Just one of my favorites. Imagine, John Lennon's song, Imagine. That's coming, you know. That's coming. Where humanity is actually going to remember that we are all one. Because when I remember who I actually am, and you remember who you actually are, and we're both the same, what we are and who we are is the same thing. So then we can love each other. There was another guy 2,000 years ago said the same thing, you know. Those of you from Christian tradition, remember what he said? Loving the Lord thy God with a heart, mind, soul, and strength. Well, heart, mind, soul, and strength is this. Look at this. Soul, heart, mind, and body. That's it. And the Lord thy God is the I am within. So the I am, so when we love the I am within ourselves, the soul and the heart, the mind, and the body are at peace and in harmony. So simple. This thing is just so simple. Shame the religions have actually kind of, by default or by design, led us up the garden path. I was led up the path too, by the way. 42 years of Christianity. That's okay. Total respect to my background. But the reality actually is loving ourselves is the greatest love of all. And it was said very clearly by the Christ. Another person who said the same thing, more or less, was above all to thine own self be true. And we're going to talk about that next week. Above all to thine own self be true, then thou canst not be false to any man or woman. So we're going to touch on that next week. Today's more or less, last week and today is about falling in love with ourselves so that we're in a position then to be in love with another or others. And this is just not about intimate relationships, boyfriend, girlfriend, boyfriend, husband and wife, partners and partners. It's about the relationship with ourselves first. First, just as Whitney said. When we love ourselves first, it is the greatest love of all. As Robin said, as Anthony Robbins said, the quality of my life is the quality of my communication, firstly to myself. So when we have that pretty much sorted, then our communication with others is a lot better, believe it or not. Because we have a thing called love, trust, and respect. And I'm going to fire those three, by the way. I feel those three are the fundamentals for all relationships. Love, trust, and respect. Fundamental. But the first person we've got to love, trust, and respect is ourselves. How can we expect someone else to love, trust, and respect us until we love, trust, and respect ourselves? How can I be expected to love, trust, and respect somebody else until I love, trust, and respect myself? So it absolutely begins at home, and home is where the heart is. All right, here's another one. Yeah, the reality of our lives. What does it really mean? What does reality really mean? And those of you who know me actually know that I like to play on words. Real eyes. Reality is about realization. Realization. When we eventually realize the truth of who we actually are, life becomes totally different. Totally different. It becomes a life of ease and relaxed intensity and pleasure, as opposed to stress and anxiety that led me, from age 14 for 21 years, from age 14 to age 35, I was searching for meaning. And thankfully, I was given the tools like meditation and other things to realize the truth of who I actually am, what I am, and why I'm on this planet. And we're not going to go into life purpose tonight, but we may touch on that at another time. And it is part of the seminar program or the workshop program that I'm going to be rolling out this Sunday. In due course, we will be doing a life purpose day, coupled with a dream board workshop, by the way. Okay. The other thing that I really want to say before we close is in September last year. Let me ask this question first. Have you ever had the experience of being wakened up during the night? Not by any human, by the way, but literally sitting bolt upright during the night with words like bellowed in your ear. Well, these were the words in September last year. Shaken to the core. And immediately after that, the French for heart is le corps. I'll repeat that. These were the words about maybe it was 3:33 actually. It was certainly about 3:30 in the morning. Middle of the night, if you like, in September last year. The words were shaken to the core. And immediately after that was the French for the heart is le corps. That's what's going on right now, folks. We're being shaken to the core. Everything is being shaken to the core. Relationships are being shaken to the core. Please be aware of that. And we are being shaken out of here. It's a rude awakening, if you like, to wake up to the truth of who we actually are. Do not expect anybody else to wake up. Gandhi said it very, very clearly. Be the change. Everybody's looking for somebody else to change. Everybody's looking for somebody else to bail them out. We got to become self-reliant, inner self-reliant, and interacting and interconnected with other inner self-reliant beings. The age of codependency, I'm going to talk a lot more about that next week. The age of codependency and dependency is over, folks. Now, we can assist the process or we can resist it. It's a much better idea to assist it. How do we assist that? By becoming inner self-reliant and interacting with other people who are endeavoring to do the same thing. I would highly recommend that. Highly recommend. The search for meaning is not out there. The search for meaning is in here. So this is the journey from here to here. Call it an 18-inch journey. It's not far to go. Not far at all. But my word, does the ego not want to release us and let us go? Because it is a fear and control merchant. That's what the ego mind actually is. It's a fear and control merchant that keeps us in bondage, does not want us to be free. But freedom is here. Love, trust, and respect here first. then we have it for others. So it's just coming up to past. We're going to wrap it up. Next week, alive and well, on Tuesday, 7 o'clock. Believe it or not, next Tuesday is the 7th of May. The 7th of May at 7 p.m. So let's do that. 7 at 7 next Tuesday. And we'll do another half hour. And if anybody has any suggestions or any questions that they would like to pose or anything that they would like to cover or endeavor to cover, I'd be delighted to do so. Just please send me a message on Facebook Messenger or whatever, or go to my site and send me an inquiry. And I'm going to do next week a thing called the 2 glasses exercise. Now that's 2 glasses with water in each. I'm going to share this online without spilling any over the computer, hopefully. Yeah, so it's the 2 glasses exercise, and it's incredibly simple but an incredibly powerful visual exercise. And I'm going to give you a hint. It's about the other half. 2 half glasses don't work. The other half doesn't work. Doesn't work. All right, well, we're going to show you that next week. All right, and just before I close, those of you who are in Northern Ireland, or indeed within an hour, a couple of hours traveling distance to County Tyrone, please join us this Sunday, 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. It's all of just 69 quid, 69 pounds. That includes lunch and breaks, or 77 euros for the full day. A hairdresser told me actually last week, she says, lady from Belfast, I don't go to hairdressers much now. Surprise, surprise. You may have noticed. But anyway, this hairdresser actually said, 69 quid? That's less than I actually charge for a wash, cut, blow, dry, and color. So there you go. The reality is, it's not even a night out. But we want to make this very affordable for anyone and everyone who wishes to come along. A full day where we'll be doing lots of this. Sharing and interacting and intercommunicating. It's not just yours truly sitting there speaking. That's not what it's going to be. It's going to be a workshop support group of kindred spirits, an opportunity for lots of people to come together whereby we can share and exchange. So with that, thank you very much for your time and your attention. It's been a privilege and an honor sharing in this evening, and I look forward to sharing more with you again this time next week, which is the 7th of May at 7 p.m. In the meantime, have a lovely evening. Good for the rest of the week. Namaste, and I hope to see some of you on Sunday. Thank you very much. Namaste.